Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Solopreneur Spotlight Series. In this series, I feature women and those with a passion and dream who are running their own businesses. And today, I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Faith Teo, and we are going to be discussing on burnout. Right? As a six-figure business owner, Faith Teo is no stranger to burnout and to overwhelm. After her last episode in 2019, she got fed up and went to find her own answers. Her eternal question is, can women really have success by their own definition and still create a life of spaciousness, joy, and pleasure? Happily, the answer is yes, and she's happy to help us on the house. So thank you for being here with us, Faith.
Thanks for having me here. Yeah.
Right. I'm so delighted to have this opportunity to kind of understand a bit more about burnout. Now, I used to have mistaken ideas about what burnout means, right? I thought that burnout only happens to those in the office, and I couldn't quite, place that burnout can also happen to those who are running their own businesses as well. So, can you share a little bit about what burnout means? Like, is there an official definition, and what do you understand by burnout?
Okay, so actually it was so interesting, right? Because when I looked through the questions you've given to me for this interview, I was like, oh, I never actually went to look up the official definition of burnout.
Oh,
But it was interesting, right? Because I was like, but I knew that I had burnout then. But okay, when I have a quick look at Google, I realized that okay, they're pretty much on par. Similar definition. So let me read out to you guys, like, what is the official definition of burnout? So it says this, right? Burnout is a form of exhaustion caused by constantly feeling swamped. It is a result of excessive and prolonged emotional, physical, and mental stress. Hello, COVID. In many cases, burnout is also related, most of the times, it's related to one's job. In this case, we'll be talking about for us solopreneurs, entrepreneurs as well. And burnout happens when you're overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to keep up with life's incessant demands. So that's like one of the definitions from Google. And I would say that based on my personal experience in burnout for my own life and also working and coaching different women as well, right? It's pretty much similar to. I think that burnout can show up in like various ways. Like I know that personally for myself, right? I first realized that I was burnt out, not because I was feeling like extremely tired and numb out, but it was having the feeling that I didn't want to leave the house. I just want to kind of like hide in the dark corner of my room, figuratively and literally speaking, that and just be by myself. Like I just didn't want to do anything. I had no energy, no focus, no like didn't have the capacity of the mind to do that. But I've also noticed that for the woman that I spoke to, right, burnout can show up in so many different ways. For some, it was increasingly being agitated and upset, easily frustrated is also one thing that comes out too when they're tipping over already in that burnout stage. For some others, you might hear the common refrain of that, and this happens maybe earlier on in this burnout thing, right? Whereby they go like, oh, I need a vacation, I need a holiday. And that was very fascinating for me because I realized that there's this belief that, yeah, it's the surroundings that's causing my burnout. When I go on a holiday, everything will be okay. But the part that I'm so fascinated by is that, so what do we do when we come back to our regular life, home,
right.
work? Yeah. Like, what do we do to ensure that we don't get into that again? Yeah.
Right, right. I find it very interesting that you talked about burnout being like exhaustion, mental stress, and what took place for you was that you started to notice that you were having or some signs, right, or symptoms of burnout, like you were at home, you felt that you had no energy, and for other women, it was also increasing agitation.
Yeah. Agitation, being upset. Physically, it can also lead to, this is actually very common among like the high income earners for women, also
Mhm.
loss of sex drive or low sex drive. That's also a common symptom as well, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that all these symptoms we have to kind of keep a lookout for, like, in terms of that it could point us to the fact that we are feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
Yes. So I think because, and I'm talking about this, like, the sex drive, the part about feeling numb, the part about like me not wanting to go out the house, right? It's because I think there is a belief that burnout simply means being so tired, but it's really way more than that. It really does have an impact on literally like what Google say, right? Like physical, mental, emotional, and because we're all made differently, it shows up in different ways too. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that, overall there is that sense of overwhelm and stress. I also find it interesting that you actually talked about the fact that, hey, we can go on a holiday. I mean, a lot of people think that that's the solution for fixing a problem with burnout. But when we come back, we are still faced with that same environmental factors. So do you think that this burnout is environmentally driven, work driven, or is there something deeper?
I think it's a mixture of both. But I think looking at the different conversations that I have with women, right, across these years, right, often I feel that it's really more of what is their internal drivers as well. So some okay, let me I just paint you a bit of stereotypical woman that is more prone to burnout. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
women who are to me, okay, and of course in the audience, if you feel that you disagree with me, please chat in the chat box in the comment below for this video. If it's on YouTube, chat it below. I would love to hear your comments as well. But for me, I was just thinking that women who tend to be wants to be perfect, like, so perfectionism comes out as well. Perfectionism, some
Mm-hmm.
characteristics, perfectionism, which also has women who are also having a lot of stuff around shame, especially shame. uh and we always hear about mommy's guilt, right? So that one definitely comes out too. I've also noticed that women who are more like, if you talk about a category of like goal-getters, ambitious, wanting to do well in their business or job, tend to be uh more vulnerable to burnout. And I'm saying that, and I hope that by saying that, I hope that I'm actually not like boxing up this thing so tightly that there's no wiggle room. But
Mm-hmm.
really it's because um I felt that, like, for us as women who are prone to burnout,
Mm-hmm.
we seem to not understand or discern that when is the time to rest. And rest is a topic
Mm.
that I am so fascinated by recently. I just came out of a 2 weeks rest period in August. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I was like thinking that I used to think that resting, sure, just go on a vacation and whatsoever, right? But I also realized that when women like us who are so wanting to have, oh, I want this and that, I want to create my dream life and whatsoever, we may not know when to rest, or where or how to schedule rest in advance before we get to the stage that we are tired, overwhelmed, fatigued, burnt out, you know? So I'm pretty fascinated by that. And so recently I wrote a social media post on my Instagram talking about rest being confrontational. And it is, because for, I think, many of us, right, who are so used to like you jumping out of the bed, you're going out there, you're doing your stuff, you're handling your work, you're managing the household, you have your kids, and da da da. We're so used to be in the momentum of doing and going and doing and going, to just ask us to just transition to pause, slow down, rest can feel very unsettling actually.
Right.
Mm.
So what you're saying is that burnout tend to kind of well, at least for women who are more driven, right? They
Mm.
are more those who are driven to perfectionism. They
Yeah.
are high achievers. They want to perform, and they may also have issues on shame. Is that what you said? That
Yeah.
actually be come in as they think about that they don't actually deserve to have that rest period, and they kind of push themselves
Mm.
harder, and that's why they get into this like burnout? Is that what I'm
Yeah.
understanding it to be?
Yeah, I think the other part of the shame part is that
Mhm.
if I distill shame into its like very into its very essence, right? What is it all about? In
Yes.
general, what it means is that and okay, I can't speak about the men, okay, because I do so much work with the woman, but
Mm-hmm.
I say is that having a sensing that just us by us being just like this,
Mm-hmm.
shame comes out when we feel that we are not enough as we are right now.
Mm.
So it also could show up as in like, I feel that I need to do something, prove to prove that I am this way, I'm this kind of person, I to prove my worth actually. And
Mm.
why I say is because, right, it was so interesting that we're having this interview today because
Mhm.
last night I was actually I was hosting a team coaching call.
Yep.
So there's a group of us, right? We have 16 women on this call in this season of coaching. And I could even see that there were actually also like not even just in the corporate world or business women, there were also homemakers that were burnt out as well. And
Makers. So
homemakers.
are they running a business, or they are just
Yeah. So for them is that in their work currently is that their main role in the family is to take care of the household and the kids, and then they're also trying to run a side hustle, the business as well.
okay, okay.
Yeah, but I think when I was talking to one of them, I've noticed that there was an inability to say no. So stuff around boundaries came into, and stuff
Mm.
around being able to say that these are my needs. I want to validate my needs and acknowledge my needs first before
Mm.
I say yes to something else on top of my very, very full plate. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I talk about that. Actually, shame comes
Mm.
in as well. It was so interesting, this whole intertwining of relationship between that burnout, the go-getter, the perfectionism, the shame, and also the boundary stuff too. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought up that, burnout may seem to be something external, right? Something like, I mean, definitely environment plays a part. But what you've brought up is that it could also be something deeper, like it's linked to shame, it's linked to not having clear boundaries, it's linked to not feeling worthy of taking self-care, not feeling worthy about having that break or relaxation. And I guess that it affects a lot of women tend to take on a
Mm,
lot of stuff on their plate, as what you've
mm,
covered.
yeah. Yeah. So like the classic stuff that I always tell people about when it comes into like the difference between men and women. And what happened was that for me, I actually watched this interview online, right? And it was this roving reporter going around to people on the streets in the business district and asking both men and women this question: how do you juggle between work and family life? So the reporter went around and asking,
Mm-hmm,
different folks, right? And
mm-hmm,
it's so interesting because when she asked the man this question, the man generally goes like, huh? What do you mean by juggle? I just focus on my work.
mm,
So it already tells me that like the way how they work was very like, okay, I'm just focused on the present right now. They're able to
mm,
compartmentalize
yeah.
and manage their different areas of life from the aspect, right? But with
Oh,
women, you ask any woman about it, especially moms, I realize that they go into, yeah, and a prolonged, lengthy discussion comes out of it. And I think
right,
that's so fascinating to see that actually. Yeah.
right. So you're saying that men, they have this ability to compartmentalize, but women not so much, right? In the sense that
Yeah.
kind of like it's all they see a lot in terms of the relationships, the interconnectedness between different life areas. Is that what you are referring to?
Yeah, so even like say if I bring the example closer to home, so let's talk about me and my husband, okay? In
Okay.
fact, he's just literally just beside me right now. So like I mean honestly, like when I'm tired and I'm feeling that I am tired, I need a break, I will basically tell him straight out like, oh, I'm so tired, I need a break.
Uh-huh.
See, for him, right, it's just that if I ask him to do something, like, okay, could you help me buy these groceries? Could you help me
Hmm.
send this thing up for my business? He would just do it. So there's very little like oh I'm so tired. He would just do it. He doesn't express it so much. It was more of that, okay, this thing needs to get done. Let's get it done first. Let's sort this out
Mm.
first before we talk about like whatever I'm feeling about it. And I've
Mm,
noticed that because sometimes we work closely together,
mm,
how we process that was also very different too. I will be
mm,
like expressing and internalizing as I go along. He doesn't. It was really like he does this, and it was really more like, let's get this task done well, and that's the most important thing.
mm.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting that two of you can be working side by side, different ways of processing things, different ways
Yeah.
of, getting things done. Now, what did he say when you were going through burnout? Like, did he notice, or did he gave you any advice or suggestion?
I think that's a fascinating thing because it's like, okay, me as a woman, right? I will go like, I'm so tired, I can't rest, I got so many things to do. So it sounds very common, right? Sounds very familiar, right? And
Yes.
then he will go like, just rest lah, just stop, just rest. It's as simple as that. And I think that honestly for me, I appreciate, the kind of input from my husband and from guys. It is as simple as that. But I think for us women, one thing that I think we're guilty of is that we can't bear to put it down
Yes.
and attend to our own needs first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty challenging. Like, as a mom and someone running my own business as well, I find that quite difficult also.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just wondering if burnout has issues that are deeply rooted in shame, perfectionism, I'm not worthy issues. Like, how can women actually address this?
So one of the things I talk about to people that I work with in my
Mm-hmm,
business, so I have teams also in my business as well,
mm-hmm,
is that I kind of gave them a solution, but it feels very counterproductive for them because I asked them straight off. Like I actually did speak to many of my team members and said that, why don't you just go and rest? Or have you done anything for pleasure yet? Or even questions like, do you believe that you can have fun and pleasure in your business as well? And
mm-hmm,
I think very often when I ask that, honestly, there's a bit of a stunned expression going on when I talk to them face to face on Zoom,
mm-hmm.
because they didn't feel that they didn't even think that that could be a solution. They just feel that, no, I'm burnt out, but I still need to do this because only I can handle this because
Mm,
there's so many things to do. The team, my colleagues will not be able to proceed if I don't do my part. Yeah, yeah. But I think also coming out of my rest period this month, I've also learned that when I'm so caught up, and it is for business owners out there, yeah. And when I realized that when we're so caught up into the activities, the doing, implementation, and checking off the task list, right, the never-ending task list, I've noticed that we can also, like, we are seeing the trees, but we're not seeing the forest. And
mm,
so in that sense, we're also not being able to receive wisdom, to receive insights from a more zoom out view of the
right,
situation. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So I
mm,
hear you. It's like we get so caught up, right? That we
yes,
start to have tunnel vision. We are just so concentrated on what we have to do, and that we just can't see that there's a bigger picture, right? In that, there's actually a lot of value found in taking self-care as well.
yes. And also for entrepreneurs out there as well, is that when I talk about the subject of creativity, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't know whether among entrepreneurs, is there a assumption that creative means that being artistic, being creative in the expressionistic arts like drawing, journaling, writing, performing, but it's not so. Actually, creativity is one of the biggest gifts that an entrepreneur would have. Biggest gift and tools also is very much needed for business, because creativity also means that we are more fluid and more fluid at spinning a situation around in our head and solving it from different angles. So it has also roots in like troubleshooting. It has roots in like negotiation, problem solving as well. Yeah. So it's not just to say like, oh, I'm not in the business of like creating like arts or music or whatsoever. It's really not that. And I've noticed that when we don't allow our brains to rest, to play, rest have different kinds of rest. So there's the kind that you are sleeping, there's a kind that you are spending time not doing work, just what purposeless activities that you personally enjoy. There are all kinds. There's also spiritual, feeding our spiritual needs as well. There's also a kind of nourishment for the soul too. And I noticed that when we don't do all this stuff, right, we get very microscopic and tunnel vision in our business. And also because we don't feel the best if we are reaching burnout, the way how we show up to our clients, to our working partners, our collaborators, to the audience is not the best energy ever. I have been in a space before that when I was burnout and I was still like, struggling along, right? I have like well-meaning friends telling me that and asking each other also that Faith is so successful, but why is she so unhappy? And I have friends telling me also that like, oh, I don't know why you're always unhappy and your energy feels so heavy. And so I also realized that, so rest is not because I'm weak. Rest is because it's really needed. And it's really needed for, maybe to simply say it's like enriching our lives, but it really helps everyone to have a very expansive life. Not expensive, but expansive. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that by having this kind of bigger perspective, right, about why we are needing to do self-care, right, why we are needing to take the breaks, is because having that space or that break is going to help foster creativity, is going to help us in showing up better for our clients, right, our energy levels, and also for just to be showing up more confidently, more joyful. Is that the bigger picture that you're referring to?
Yes, because like for us as entrepreneurs, right, we've always, the markers of a successful thriving business is when you do have your income coming in, you have paying clients, your business has its own successful ways of generating revenue, right? And I always believe that money is an energy. And to me, I've also equate money as one form of abundance, as one form of wealth too. So if money is energy, right? And if we talk about like energy, like money, myself, and then to me is that for me to attract that level of abundance, then I must show up at that level as well. If I show up in like unhappiness, scarcity, tired, dense, heavy, low, I'm not able to attract more of what I wanted. Yes, so it kind of comes together. Of course, there are people who are like unhappy and stressed and they are very, very wealthy. But I've also realized that money is a magnifier. So whatever we have, it magnifies and amplifies more of who we are. So to me, that was some stuff I learned in this journey of being an entrepreneur as well. Yeah.
Totally agreed. Like we attract who we are and might even amplify that energy, right, of what we attract. Well, I'm just wondering, last question, in that for people who are just starting their business and they are trying to get clients, there's a lot to do, a lot on their plate, and it just seems like, they have to be working, putting in a lot of their effort, time, even for the women that you work with, right? Some of them having their side hustles, right? Is that there's just so much on their plate, especially if they are trying to get their business off the ground. How would you advise them, right, in terms of incorporating that care or that time for breaks? Because there's so much to do. Like, what advice would you give to them?
I think for me, it would actually start off with just one question. And the question will be that, how can you have more ease in your life or even more ease in this area of your life? Because I think that when we shift from the perspective that, okay, so if women are having a perspective that I had so many things to do. I've got to do this. No one else can do it. I am the only one who can do it, right? So that's a belief. That's not a fact. It's a belief, you know. And many of us take on this belief actually. It's like a bit of a martyr complex actually. And so when I ask you the question that how can you have more ease in your life or in this particular area, right? It gets people to think about like, oh, so it's not really about that I have to do everything. Oh, how can I make it easier for myself? So this question I ask also because I want to um, invite curiosity also. Like, what if you get creative and say that it's really okay if you ask for help? It's really okay if you don't submit A plus grade work, but you do B minus work, for example. How would that look like for you? And what are the benefits that you've gotten? Yeah, yeah. So I think like, I mean, if you talk about the typical mother who's like, she's like running, okay, let's make it really intense. Like it's a full-time job, she's running a side hustle, she's also taking care of the household and the kids and whatsoever, right? So ease can be that, you know, you drop one thing from the household that you're managing. Like for example, you just don't cook. Okay. Yeah, you know, order food, get your husband to learn. Hey, come on, I mean, it's like I always tell people that, well, the kids take two people to create, right? So why is it the woman that's handling everything? Yeah, even get your kids to help as well. If it's September holidays, I'm getting my kids to come and practice house chores with mommy. Yeah, I'm doing that. It's so interesting. Yeah, so my kids are like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, go and learn how to do house chores.
It's great that you're involving your kids to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And really, like in the business, right? Not every activity I need to be the one doing it. So what I've been doing like for the past 1 year, and I understand if folks tell me that, Faith, but you're different. You've been in the business for a number of years. You're
Yes.
just starting out, right?
Yeah.
But I think honestly, it need not to be, it need not be something like expensive to ask for help or to delegate out. It really need not be. Yeah, because it can even be that you're asking like your younger relatives to help you. It can even be asking your husband, your kids to help you as well. So yeah, yeah. I think it's about that. So often when we get a question um that feels triggering to us, a lot of times I've noticed that quite often the answer that quickly came out would be that that's not possible. I don't have the budget for that or whatsoever. But I think but then that would be my request that would you be able to pause and kind of like play with what the possibilities are to create that ease in your life. Because when you have that, you feel a lot more spaciousness. You're able to also rest properly and take care of yourself too. And the thing is that so often people think that in a business, right, it's the products they sell that makes the revenue. It's the services they provided, but they forgot that they have $1 million asset in the business, and that asset is themselves. Because if the
Yes.
owner fails, the business fails as well.
I absolutely love what you just said, right? It's about themselves, right? It's about ourselves, right? When we run businesses, then that's the greatest piece of asset. I really enjoyed this conversation and the fact that you offered some solutions. So what I'm hearing is that you are challenging some of their paradigms, some of the mindsets, right, that women tend to have with regards to their work, their ability to take a rest, and to ask them about what beliefs they're holding, right? And if they are kind of prone to perfectionism or lack of boundaries. So these are a lot on their internal beliefs and internal world. So this is what you're hoping to help them change. And on the side, you're also helping them to think of ways that they can actually incorporate more ease into their lives. So it's like I'm seeing that there's this two-pronged solution that you're hoping to help your clients with.
Yeah, so like say we talk about like burnout, right? So the whole thing in burnout, there's the association of overwhelm, there's the association of impact to all aspects of health. On the other hand, if you look at the desire state, so there's this part about ease, there's this part about freedom, and this
Mm,
part about self-trust and also rest. And they're
mm,
all intertwined as well, because I think that I was just thinking about self-trust, and I realized that the reason why for most of us we don't rest enough, we don't go by what do we want first. We look at what others
yes,
are doing, and sometimes
yes.
we haven't deepened trust in ourselves first. Yeah,
Mm,
we have basically borrowed the hates of other people, but
mm-hmm.
we're not honoring what we actually want.
Mm. I just love what you just said about having that self-trust, right? Believing in ourselves, believing in our own dreams, and
Mm,
just, setting very clear boundaries, right? About the fact that we kind of deserve this, right? We are worthy of having this break and self-care.
mm.
I really enjoyed this conversation very much. And I'm just thinking that I'm pretty sure that there are lots of women out there who are needing to deal with burnout and overwhelm. Like, how can they find you? Like, where,
Okay,
yeah,
you can find me, right? So,
you're offering.
okay, so on Instagram, you can find me at Faith in Flow. So like my name Faith, in IN Flow, FLOW. You can also find me on Facebook. Based on how I look, you can probably find my picture on Facebook as well. I also have a website called faithteo.co, not .com, but it's .co. So that's
Cool.
.co. Yeah, so I mean, I'm always happy to help. So if anyone's watching this and you are really like vibing strong with what I say, you're always very welcome to drop me a message, and we can take it further along too.
Great, great. Thank you for your generosity, Faith. And I think it's wonderful that you're offering to help anyone who is feeling overwhelmed and really need to find better strategies on how to cope. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for being here today. And I'll be posting some of the links to Faith's website and her Instagram right below this video. So do check out her website. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so
And
much. Yeah, thank you, Evelyn, for inviting me to your platform.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. Just thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Well, everyone, thank you for listening in. See you in the next video. Take care for now.
Bye.